All right, what's up? We're going to talk about the reopening of the Kendrick Lamar Johnson case from 8 years ago. You see here, investigating into death of Georgia teen found in rolled up gym at 8 years ago will be reopened. It was opened up by the sheriff, Ashley Polk, I think how you say his name.
Yeah.
He's reopening the case.
We did want to talk to you about the reopening of the Johnson case. What's going on now to reopen?
We officially reopened it Friday. We started trying to obtain all the federal investigative documents. First letter I wrote was the 2nd of April in 2019, and they subsequently, a couple of months later, denied giving us anything. And to the Johnson family credit, they kept pursuing it, and they had some allies that had some influence. And right before Christmas, I got a pretty good Christmas present. I got a call from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Ohio, where it was based. Now the case was based, and they were going to release the documents to us, and we got them approximately 2 months later. Of course, I don't know if you're aware, but they came with a order from the federal judge that the documents were sealed. So actually, if I find anything I find in those documents, I cannot discuss it.
This case is, I see why it keeps getting attention every couple of years, because
It's complicated,
it's
though.
a very complicated case. Some moments it makes no sense on either side, and then if you don't know about the Kendrick Johnson case, he was a 17-year-old high school kid when I first heard about this case, I thought it was in Georgia. I thought it was in Chicago. I don't know why, but it's actually
Chicago.
I don't know. I thought this was a case I thought he was from Chicago, but he was from Georgia. According to the Lieutenant Stride Jones, Johnson was likely sitting on top of the collection of mats when one of his shoes dropped into the center. Students at the school often sat atop those mats, police and students said. Johnson's friend told investigators they shared the sneakers and would store them under the mats for each other to retrieve. Lieutenant Jones believed Johnson may have been running late for class and decided against removing the mats to get to one of where his shoe was located. That don't make sense.
Don't make sense at all.
If he's rushing, he wouldn't just jump up and try to squeeze into this little mat to get it. He would
move all the shit.
No, he would just leave the shoe.
Yeah, leave the shoe, or
I get it
move all that
tomorrow.
shit.
I get it after class or something. If he was late, unless he didn't have gym that day, because the classes were offset. So one day you would have this set of classes, the next day you would have a different 4 classes. You didn't have the same classes every day.
If he wasn't going, if he didn't need it for gym, then why would he be getting shoes?
I don't know. That's my point.
This sounds like a cover-up story.
I guess his friend used the shoes that day.
Then his friend could have came and got it.
It was, by the way, there were kids in the gym when he went in.
So if he would have fell in, I would imagine he would have said, "Help!"
Somebody would have heard him, saw him go over there or something. But yeah, it just makes no sense. It really makes no sense. Then you look at here, it says how he got stuck. Lieutenant Jones said Johnson presumably reached down into the center of the roll mat with one arm outstretched. Unable to reach the shoe, he continued to burrow his way into the mat's center, where, according to Jones, he was unable to free himself and suffocated. The official cause of death is positional asphyxia. So
his body is, it was 19 inches wide, and the mat was 14 inches wide.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense that he would fit into that mat. Because right here, I'm trying to imagine if I took my shoulders and I mushed it in, would it make it smaller? Would you be able to dive? And I'm not seeing that happen.
Well, this right here is a picture of his father trying to do it. As you can see here, it ain't happening. He was not getting through that mat. His father tried to do it to prove how crazy it seemed. So as you can see, it's more than just squeezing to get through. So,
I'm starting to believe that he was rolled up.
It seems more like it now. Also, what people tend to bring up in this situation is when they found his body, there were shoes. The shoes were next to him. His shoes that he was wearing were beside him. And if you look at the crevice, they look like they've been pressed.
Yeah.
Like they were wrapped with him. They don't look like they were placed in there or they fell through because they look like they're squished.
They look like they're squished.
They don't look like they weren't squished and they fell out. They would be loose or whatever.
This is upside down, right? He's turned upside down.
Yeah. This might be them when they laid him down because they have to take pictures first of the crime scene, which is a travesty.
Yeah, I don't see how he's trying. Okay, he has his shoes on and he's trying to get out of the mat, and then his shoes fall off, and then they perfectly land behind his leg,
and they look squished. Even in this case right here, even the crime scene, the coroner talked about how terribly they handled this situation. If you can see right here,
you know, the Johnsons really wanted to get some details from that video, that blurry video you just showed, about how this investigation was handled. They say it was bungled at best, used as a cover-up at the very worst. Well, we now have details from an official on the scene, the coroner, Bill Watson, about that investigation. Here it is. It's coroner's death investigation report. I'm going to read from it. He writes, "The investigative climate was very poor to worse when I arrived on the scene. The body had been noticeably moved, the scene had been compromised, and there was no cooperation from law enforcement at the scene." He goes on to say, Anderson, that information necessary for my lawful investigation was withheld. Now, this is one version of the coroner's death investigation report. This is another. This one was sent to us as a result of an open records request from the coroner's office, and it's signed and dated. This copy was given to us in May by the sheriff's office, and again last week as a result of that law enforcement. It does not have the description that I just read, nor is it signed by the coroner.
I did not approve of the manner this case was handled. Not only was the scene compromised, the body was moved, the integrity was breached by opening the sealed body bag. Information necessary for my lawful investigation was withheld, he said. So even he thought it was, very poorly done.
Very poorly done.
The family had to sue the school district because what they said was allowed bullying, basically. Their son, they said here, the complaint said the school officials knew about the attack on Johnson by a white student during the school bus trip a year earlier and another attack later. The other student had a history of provoking and attacking Johnson at school, the lawsuit said. Johnson was victimized again in the presence of the coaching staff and employees of the school again after his mother complained about the attacks, the suit said. After Johnson was improperly accused and blamed for instigating a school bus fight, school officials refused to let his mother see the bus surveillance video, the filing said. Johnson was subjected to undeserved punishment, humiliation, and various forms of mistreatment by members of the coaching staff of the football program, leading his decision to quit the football team, the suit said. So they had sued because they said he was being bullied, basically, by this kid here, Brian.
They sued the school?
Yeah, the school district, yeah.
This was before the incident?
No, this is post.
Post. Okay, well, I think when stuff like that happens, you have to document it.
They did.
Okay.
That's what they're saying. They talked to them and all that stuff. But after they sued, they also sued to get access to the tapes or the surveillance.
Well, there's certain steps you have to take to get tapes like that, because there's like other kids on the film, so they're just not gonna give it to you. There's certain steps you have to take to get the
information,
surveillance tape.
Yeah, but this right here is the parent. This is when they came out and they wanted the surveillance footage.
It's all over until we get the truth. That's all we've ever asked for, was the truth about what happened to Kendrick Johnson.
Jacqueline Johnson and her husband Kenneth hope to find that truth in the hundreds of hours of surveillance video recorded the day sheriff's investigators say the 17-year-old died. Look carefully. There he is, in the white t-shirt and jeans, carrying a yellow folder. The Johnsons now have this video as the result of a lawsuit. CNN filed its own motion to get access to all the video. Investigators in Lowndes County, Georgia told the Johnsons and their attorneys that Kendrick climbed into a gym mat reaching for this shoe and that his death was an accident.
They know their child did not.
Look who there. The ambulance chaser, Ben Crump. See, he didn't get them. He wasn't able to get them justice. Obviously, he never get people justice, but he wasn't even able to get them a check. I don't think he even got them a check.
He trying to get that check for him now, though.
Get stuck and die. Where is that video?
The sheriff's office says that moment was not recorded. The Johnsons also question moments in the surveillance video like this one. Kendrick is seen running in the gym, and then another image appears showing other students. It jumps from one moment to another. The Johnsons' attorneys say they can't tell from the surveillance video what happened to Kendrick and when the other students entered.
We don't have any time code with which to synchronize the events that are shown in the video.
Either the camera did this on their own or a human being interacted to make this camera do these things.
I just don't understand how y'all just don't have the footage of him in the gym. That's the only footage you need is the gym. You don't need him walking around the school. You just need to show the footage of him, what happened when he entered the gym. That's all you need.
Yep, and this right here, even the experts said that the video footage was highly suspect. They thought that it was very blurry. There were segments missing. They felt like it was all over the place.
Well, you know, the superintendent, I believe, reviewed the tapes, and the police officers didn't review the tapes. It was the superintendent, the school that reviewed it, and then they gave it to the school to look over it first, and then they got to decide what the parents got to see.
Yeah, so it was all over the place.
And they try to use the excuse that, well, there's kids, so we can't give you all the footage because there's kids, but you can blur them out.
So the FBI did a video analysis of it, and they made sure to prove that the kid, Brian Bell, was not near Kendrick Johnson. But guess the FBI had a reason to do this because the kid, Brian Bell's father, was an FBI agent. So you really can't pay attention to them.
Like, what is the odds? The FBI said we're gonna prove that Brian Bell
was not
near Kendrick Johnson,
but
his daddy is
FBI. But anyway, so the family, they sued. They did everything they could to prove their son was murdered. The first thing they needed to prove was the son was murdered. It wasn't just who did it. They wanted to prove he was actually murdered because the first thing the police officers, first thing they did was say it was an accident. Right?
Yep. They didn't
challenge it at all. They immediately said he died from asphyxiation. That's it.
Yep. They actually they made the parents wait longer than what they should too.
Mm-hmm.
They had notified them.
But then when they finally was able to get the second autopsy done, the coroner found out that all his organs were missing.
Black body harvesting.
And stuffed with newspaper.
But that is a practice that they do.
Where the hell is his organs?
They can't. Don't nobody know where the organs is.
Now the funeral home, after his first autopsy done by the police, they did the first autopsy to see how he died, and they quickly came to the positional asphyxiation, which, by the way, is so rare. It's so rare to die that way.
Can anybody verify where Prince Williams was, Queen Elizabeth's husband, on January 2013? Where was he?
He needed another heart. But listen, how in the hell? When the police did the first autopsy, they see how he died. They said he died of positional asphyxia, however you say it. Immediately, the body got transferred to the funeral home, who covered the funeral costs for free.
That was nice of them. But they signed documents that they got his body, his clothes, his organs without actually looking. Well,
allegedly.
I'm gonna say allegedly on this.
Yeah.
They gave him a free funeral because they were planning on selling them organs.
Hey.
Allegedly.
I mean, let me say this. This is a 17-year-old black kid.
Black male.
No gunshot wounds. No destruction of any organs or nothing. His perfectly fine organs. He died of suffocation.
They were gonna let them good organs go to waste.
I don't know, man. It's strange. But even Dick Gregory, remember, he came out and said, he said Trayvon Martin was a product of organ harvesting. He said the same thing happened to Kendrick Lamar Johnson. So a second autopsy came out and proved that the organs were missing. And that autopsy proved that he died from blunt force trauma to the neck. I'm sorry, I don't know how the police and their investigators were able to come to the conclusion of suffocation, and then a second autopsy is done when his body is exhumed and said, oh no, there's
heat trauma, but they said it was blunt trauma.
Yeah, there's blunt trauma on his neck. So that's how they believe he that's how he died. And then obviously that went on, not really came of it again. Then the third autopsy came. And the third autopsy showed non-accidental damage to boy found dead in rolled up gym mat. So 2 autopsies proved he did not die from suffocation. This right here is the report they put out of the third autopsy. As you can see, blunt force trauma, right neck. You see here, cause of death, blunt force trauma, right neck, involving right mandible and soft tissue, including the area of the carotid body, consistent with inflicted injury.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I mean, he was killed.
Yeah, he was killed. Most definitely he was killed. I can't imagine him diving into a mat.
Rolled up mat.
Over a shoe. Well, you know, black men, they love their shoes.
But come on.
So some niggas out there be like, he might have died for them shoes.
I don't know, man. But this right here is a alleged written confession of a friend of Brandon and Brian Bell, saying that he admitted in his apartment that he killed him. Now, this is all alleged. This is not proven to be real, but this is some of the theories out there, and this is one of the theories we ran across. Brian Bell and Taylor Eakin took part in murdering Kendrick Johnson. Taylor Eakin slept with Kendrick and Brian Bell, then beat him to death with a gym weight. Article states Kendrick rolled himself in mats behind the bleachers. Rick Bell, Brian's father, is a former FBI agent who had Kendrick's organs and finger toenails removed. But that's what they come to the conclusion of. You see here, going to more in depth, saying that Kendrick Johnson and the old girl, the white girl, was having a sexual affair, pretty much. Saying Kendrick was challenged by the white guy, said met him in the gym, him and his brother, and he ended up him and his friend, and he ended up hitting Kendrick Johnson in the neck with a 45-pound weight. Now, that's just a theory out there. It's not considered to be the real information. It might have been this information might have came out. This information obviously had to have probably came out afterwards, after these coroner's report saying how he died. So it's easy to say the 45-pound weight, but this theory came out post.
Now, see, if this came out right at the time before they released all this information, then you probably like, yeah, this definitely go along with the story. But
so I doubt this story was not created after the information was already released. But that's a theory out there of why that particular kid would have killed him back then. And this is somebody else who had that same opinion. But part of some new information that has come is a new confession tape has allegedly been released of someone saying they did it. Now we're going to listen to the parents' reaction to this new information, this confession allegedly.
Is investigating new possible evidence in the case of a teen found dead in a high school gym. Kendrick Johnson's family say they recently obtained a recording of someone who may be confessing to killing him. The 17-year-old was found dead in a rolled-up gym mat in his high school 8 years ago. An autopsy ruled his death an accident, but his family has always believed he was killed. They turned over the 25-second recording to the sheriff earlier this week.
And I quote, "They're gonna catch me anyways. I should have never done this. I was young and stupid. Kendrick didn't deserve this, man." A couple of seconds go by and he ends with a very tearful, "They're gonna catch me anyways."
The family says the audio was secretly recorded by the person's family member who sold it to them for $1,000. Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk says they are working to authenticate the clip and will ask the GBI for help. He also confirmed the recording may possibly be someone already questioned in the case. Earlier this month, the sheriff announced he was reopening this case after getting new evidence from a federal investigation.
Yeah, they got a ton of information for that. They got 17 boxes of written electronic evidence from the federal investigation. So all the information the FBI gained or the investigators gained, they've given to the sheriff now.
Which is good.
Yeah, but how much of that has been altered in itself? I mean, if they truly are protecting the FBI agent, those 17 boxes have been 8 years. Those boxes have been, that stuff has been edited and changed most likely.
You know, it's a really sad story because this story is so complicated because on one hand, you kind of like, there's no way that, he would dive into a gym mat for some shoes. It just sounds crazy. But on the other, because it's such a freak accident, if I was a parent too, I just would not believe that my child, the way he looked, just dived into a gym mat and that's how he died. But there are freak accidents that occur like that.
Yeah. I don't believe it because of the shoe that was stuffed behind the damn mat, stuffed in the mat with him.
It's hard for me to believe because the mat is 14 inches and his shoulder is 19 inches.
Well,
so.
you can put one arm down, one arm up and get it, thin yourself out and fit. But them shoes looking like they're being pressed against him in that mat. I mean, and then the fact that the inside of the mat where his shoe was, the shoe he was trying to get, the blood is underneath the shoe and the shoe's on top of the blood and no blood is on the shoe.
So the blood just dripped around.
Dripped away from his body, from his head, because he's upside down. So all his blood is rushing to his head. The blood dripped out and somehow didn't get on the shoe, but was underneath the shoe. How is that possible? You have to say he had the shoe. Maybe did he have a shoe in his hand and he passed out and still had a shoe in his hand, and then he started bleeding from his head, and then finally his body released the shoe afterwards.
So it almost sounds like he was killed, rolled up, placed the shoe down, and then put the thing on top of the shoe.
I don't know, because even that don't really make sense. Why would they put the shoe and why they put the shoe there, then put a mat over the shoe? Unless the shoe you think was thrown in there.
Unless they get that video footage, I don't see it.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but a lot they are afraid that the audio recording that they received might be a hoax. They're not 100% sure. They're gonna try to see. But man, this case, I see why every couple of years they come back into the news, because it's just so much into it. It's just so much. But anyway, man, hopefully his mother and father can finally get peace as to what happened.
That's the one thing.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they haven't slept much. Yeah, hopefully they can just get some peace and finally find out what happened, regardless if it was just an accident or if he was murdered. But yeah, man. But anyway, that's our opinion on that. Like we said, hopefully the mother and father can get some peace. But anyway, man, all praise to the Most High.